I'm
Damnation.
never a day goes by when you don't make a cock up.
I know, and I got it all ready, made sure everything was up and running.
Cheers.
But we'd had a cleaner in, and she'd moved everything
How on
around.
earth do you just go and blame someone else for your own bullshit? It's not like, I mean, she's not in every time you make a cock up.
Silence. We're back. It's another edition of Driving Maul on Loud Radio. Sharky, good afternoon.
Hello, how are you?
I'm
enjoy
right, man.
Enjoy the rugby this weekend?
I did as much of it as I could catch.
Mm-hmm.
Am I there? I am there. Fuck it.
I'm running solo today.
Yeah. Lots to talk about. Plenty of international rugby. Not a hell of a lot going on anywhere else. But you do have some Province Club Rugby news and Club Championship stuff to talk about. So fire away.
I was actually just having a quick sort of Twitter chat with the Community Cup guys, the guys who run the SA Club Rugby Twitter account. Just sort of finding out what's happening in terms of who gets wild cards and stuff like that. You can actually jump onto at SA Club Rugby on Twitter or at Judge Rugby, and you can follow the conversation there. It's quite a lot of things that I'm not going to explain right now. But just to jump into what happened on the weekend, there were only two Super A games in this weekend, and a big sort of derby game. SK Warmers hosted Hammies. Massive game. They're about 500 meters apart, if that. Quite a big rivalry.
Yeah, and I picked up a bit of chatter on Twitter about punches and biting and scratching and...
Yeah, it was in one of the, I think it was in the third or the second game, but there's generally a fair amount of unsavory things that go down in that game. It's been pretty decent the last few years, especially when SK are more competitive. They obviously want to go further and win a few games, but when they're not doing so well, they resort to the ugly tactics. Well, a lot of sides do that, and not just SK, but SK beat Hammies 16-12, a massive result for them.
Wow.
Puts a huge dent in Hammies' quest to qualify as best open club for the Community Cup for SA Club Champs. And so now Hammies are going to have to sit down and wait and see, but it's huge for SK. And the other game was Helderberg took on Belleville, and Helderberg beat Belleville 11-6, and that's pretty much a bottom of the table clash. No sides getting relegated this year, so they don't need to worry about any of that, because obviously they're moving
the new format.
Yeah, 15 sides in every league, so 5 sides will move up. But basically what happens is the league as it sits now, Marty's, UCT and Durbel are 1, 2 and 3, all having played 9 games. Hammies are in 4th, played 8 games, but they are...
Maths was not his strong point.
No, there's a hell of a lot of numbers here. I'm just trying to make sure I've got the right numbers. 8 points behind Durbel, so it doesn't really look too good for Hammies in terms of finishing on top, which will pretty much secure Durbel a Community Cup spot. If I'm not mistaken, just in the conversation I was picking up today, it might not be that clean
cut
set.
And dried,
yeah. So I just want to have a look into that a little bit deeper.
Yeah, what did they say? The politicians won last year.
No, I'm not going to comment on that. But just to sort of follow through, and then obviously another thing we were chatting about was Villages, and it's one of your old clubs, you traitor. But Village, obviously being relegated out of Super A last year, have really had nothing worse than a shit start to the season. They've only won 1 game, and in the Super B, this bottom of the log, played 8, only won 1 with 6 points. Now they don't even look like they're going to finish in the top 5 to shoot straight back up to Super A, and that it couldn't have happened at a better time in terms of the movements and for them to get shot up, and they're going to have to pull finger out of their arse.
I don't know if we spoke about this last week. At some stage I chatted about this with someone, because my old man obviously was heavily involved with Village through my early days, etc. But he was talking to the club chairman a couple of weeks ago, and they just don't have the finances to hold on to players, so they're stabilizing the club financially and then hoping to have a run at it in the next 2 to 3 years. So they didn't actually anticipate coming up this year, even with the 2-up scenario that was the norm.
Yeah, well, that's I don't know. It's tough, and the only thing the thing that I thought would be most beneficial for them was the fact that they're changing the teams in the league, which pushes 5 up, which should have guaranteed Village to go back up into Super A. However, the thing that seems to benefit them is that no one's getting relegated because they're sitting at the bottom of the log.
Yeah.
And I was chatting to an ex-Village boy today, and he just said he's not.
But they lost something like 49 players when they got relegated last season.
Yeah. But then you look at someone like False Bay, who were up for a few years, and have gone back. And when they knew that they were going to drop down places, they put some changes even before they went down, and they were still in the Super A, and they're challenging. They're in third spot at the moment, so it's a tough one. And obviously, you don't want a club with the history of Villages to get relegated out of Super B, but they're gonna have to pull their finger right out their arse to do anything decent.
Oh, and we somehow, in all that chat, missed a try by Wales in the Wales-Argentina junior IRB juniors, which is a nice lead-in if we're finished with the province.
No, we're done. We're
Okay.
done. But try not to tell everyone your secrets, bro. I'm actually just chatting to you. So Wales playing Argentina now. That's winner goes through.
Well, yeah, it's a fight for top of the group because they're both on 9 points in their log. And then obviously they wouldn't want to lose by too much either because there's a chance of making the
Their
fourth
second,
semi.
yeah.
But just some results that came out of the Junior World Champs since last week. New Zealand managed to get up over Australia 14-10 in a rather scrappy and surprising result, really, given that the Aussies were put to the sword earlier in the competition by Ireland.
New Zealand not looking the champions that they were. I mean, they've lost only one game, and I believe that was to us last year. But
Their side hasn't impressed me, but that's not to say that they won't be right there at the end fighting for the title. But they don't seem
they're beatable.
They don't seem to have the bulk and the size that we've come to expect from.
I think the Fijians took them all back. Did you see the size of those guys? You can't tell the difference between a backline player. Your scrum off, yes, he's 6'8". He's standing over there, sir.
But when you line them up man for man against the baby box, it looks like it might be a little bit of a mismatch if it's a baby blacks baby box final, because the box certainly have their number in terms of size across the park. France beat the USA 45-3, the Whipping Boys. Ireland thrashed Fiji 46-3, although Fiji were probably missing a dozen players through suspension after their shenanigans against the All Blacks. Wales got up over Scotland 26-21. South Africa beat England in a rather exciting game. It really, I mean, the baby box looked like they were going to run away with it.
They went up 20-0?
Yeah,
Was
20-something nil.
And it kind of cast me back to last year when we hosted the tournament, and I went to go watch South Africa against England in the Cape Town Stadium, and we were on a hiding second to none at half time.
That's right.
And the boys pulled together and ended up winning an absolute cracker.
Yeah, and that was after they'd lost their opening game to Ireland and looked like they were going to go out.
Yeah, the Irish have been pretty decent. They've got a pretty a pretty fair side. They've been stringing together some fairly good results and pushing some of the big boys. And I mean, obviously beating us last year. Who'd they beat? They beat
Australia
in the first game. Yeah, they're pretty solid at junior level. It just hopefully it'll run through.
What that means is that there's a whole bunch of deciding games tonight, basically. The first one being Wales-Argentina, because they're both on 9 points in their group. The winner of this game obviously automatically into the semis. And then New Zealand play Ireland later in what could be a bit of a humdinger. And I'm actually going to back the Irish. I'm going to back the mix to get up over the Kiwis.
And that's huge. I mean, both Ireland and Fiji have played 2-1. Both Ireland and New Zealand have played 2-1-2. So that's pretty much going for automatic qualification straight into the thing. And I mean, if you look at that pool, New Zealand, Ireland, Australia, and Fiji, that's quite a solid pool.
Yeah, look, the Fiji's got absolutely smashed by all and sundry.
Yeah, they did, but
and they'll probably get smashed by the Aussies tonight as well.
I wouldn't be surprised if they win a game. They've always got to win in them every now and then.
And then in the third pool, it's a bit of a decider, really, because South Africa play France, and I mean the baby box look odds on to go through. France didn't impress. Well, they did impress against England. They just didn't seem to get the rub of the green in terms of scoring opportunities, and ended up losing by what seemed like a big margin. But the game was a lot closer than that scoreline suggested. which means it's going to be a bit testing for the Baby Box tonight. And for the match, South Africa are going to be fielding a new centre combination, a change at halfback, and 2 different props to the first 2 games. Justin Cadillt suffered a mild knee ligament sprain against England and he's rested for the game. And that may be considered for the next match if they go through. Well, there will be a next match depending on where and what part of the tournament. And then the little halfback Ungra had a dental procedure during the week, and they've decided to give him a rest to recuperate, and he played 2 games on the trot, which means the other Sharks halfback Hanku Venter gets a start. Other news, Handré Pollard is moved from 12 to 10. All and sundry have been crying for this and looking forward to seeing what he can do in his preferred position.
Yeah.
Because he's quite open about the fact he wants to play 10. But
yes, but he's been playing 12 the whole year.
Yeah.
And literally, I mean, when he was playing Varsity
well.
Cup, he was been playing 12. The only issue I have with him at 12 and at 10 is his defense hasn't been fantastic for this tournament. And, you can't actually have a poor defender in either one of those channels. So it's kind of much of a muchness if you look at it from that point of view. But his distribution and his passing is second to none. And looking forward to seeing that. I'm a bit bummed that we're not going to see Justin Cadillt. I'm a massive fan. I haven't been watching him that much in outside of this tournament, but I've heard about him and he's phenomenal with ball in hand.
I've seen plenty of him in the sevens this year.
Yeah, I'm watching, but I mean, sevens is a different beast. But Cheslin Colby starting again at fullback, absolute machine. Yeah. He's been unbelievable.
And then the one that not many are talking about because he kind of ended up in the side by not default, that Sergio Peterson would have been the first choice wing, and this Luther Obi from the Leopards.
He impressed me in Varsity Cup, and I tell you one thing though, we have 2 of the biggest wings that I've seen in this tournament. They're huge, they're quick, they're very well balanced, and I know I said this last week, but it's brilliant. And then once we finish talking about Obi, we can just move over to Sanatla, our sevens machine.
Who can't? I mean, if you look at what's coming through the ranks in South African rugby, and I mean we'll get onto the Bokke in a minute. In about 15 minutes, but you look at what that box side is for the weekend and how many of those guys are 20, 21, 22, 23 years of age, and then you look at what came through in terms of last year with Raymond Rule and Jan Serfontein and Arno Buerta, and now you're looking at names like, obviously there's a lot of talk about Pollard's future, and Cheslin Colby's impressed, but Sanatla will play Springbok rugby at some stage. He seems to have it all,
and he's not contracted anywhere.
No,
he's contracted
to Saru.
Yeah, he's contracted as a sevens player, and that's about it. And I guarantee
I'm
you,
hoping that Saru have woken the fuck up, because we said this a while ago. Yeah. Centralized contracts, and then Saru can subcontract him to whichever fucking province they want, and he won't be going anywhere. So I'm kind of hoping that we're going to see more of this in terms of the youth players that end up in the sevens squad and in between, because Cadillt is another one that's also contracted to Saru, and there's a third one in the squad that's in the sevens setup.
I can't see right now, but while we're talking about players who've got a promising future, I'll tell you one thing. Jesse Kriel, and he's been playing off the bench for this whole tournament. KZN boy, I think he went to Maritzburg. I'm not entirely sure where he went, so don't quote me on that. But he's contracted with the Vodacom Blue Bulls. Also, big guy, phenomenal with ball in hand, and he plays at fullback. So he often comes on, or most of the time comes on for Cheslin Colby, who destroys the guys up front. But we've got some big boys. Who's the guy that goes
Jacques Duplessis? He is not going to be far away from Springbok's selection in the next 2 to 3 years either. Yes. I mean, Baby Bok is a fucking misnomer with that oak. He's 2 meters 1 and 120 fucking kilos, and he plays flank, and he gets around the park. Yeah. But it's, I mean, he pops up everywhere. His mobility for his size is exceptional. And the rest of his skills aren't too shabby either.
He's all over the show. There was a little bit of oh no, I'm thinking of someone else now. I think of one of the locks. Who locked last week?
Erne Herbst.
Oh, Herbst, that's right.
With the beard.
Phenomenal as well.
And then gets a yellow card for no reason. Like, Samak took a couple of swings at him, and all he did was push the fucker out the way.
Jeez,
in the England game. Did you see that?
I actually did miss that. But
that was the ref stress of the week.
What are your thoughts on Robert Dupree Jr. at 10? He hasn't been shit. I think the reason why is there to kick. He didn't do well in the beginning either.
Look, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about this kid and his brothers. They all were in Craven Week for Natal in the last few years. I haven't seen anything to convince me that he's going to make the grade in terms of getting up to Super Rugby, but he's only 18, 19 years of age, and he does have the skills. But when you look at what...
He'll be in the squad next year as well, but he's also... He's not out of place. He's not overly shit.
No.
He does his job He does his job well. He's not on fire like Ches and Colby or anyone like that, but he does his job well. He's made a few mistakes which he needs to sort out, but I don't think it's that bad. And to have someone like Andre Pollard outside of you.
Yeah. Well, Hoodbud just popped in a tweet and asked the question: 11 out of the 23 players for the Baby Box tonight are Blue Bulls players. Good youth structures or good poachers? I'm going to go with poachers.
You beat me to it. You can actually change that word poachers to business because it is good business. They do exceptionally well. How many guys have they? Guys have they released this year that are all going to France? Because the Bulls are making a hell of a lot of money off them too.
Yeah. Well, they're getting rid of the ones that are costing them cash, and they've signed guys on decent contracts enough to get them from other provinces, but guaranteed less than what they've been paying their box stars.
I want to know what the provinces are doing with the money that the Bulls are paying them. And Western Province would be the first one because they've definitely received more money out of the North than anyone else.
No idea. But
anyway, tonight against the French, I haven't actually watched the French to comment, to be honest with you. I think we're going to win. Hello.
Yeah, well, what I did want to talk about was, the new centre pairing, because Dress Swanepoel, we saw bits and pieces off of the bench with Jesse Creel, and he also impressed. But Ruan Janssen van Rensburg is 100 kgs at centre.
He is?
He is.
Wow.
So I'm actually looking forward to seeing what he brings to the table, because I haven't seen too much of him. But
do you think Kanaka may have phoned and said, play this kid, I want to watch him, he might be playing for the Boks next week?
Yeah, who knows?
100 kgs. There's my flanker sorted, and he can play 12.
Yeah, and at 12 at 100 kgs. So huge. Pollard doesn't need to defend. he's got a truck parked next to him. Tonight, look, I think the Boks are going to be too strong for the French. I don't think it'll be as comfortable a victory as it was against the USA.
Dude, are we going to play State Obvious today?
No.
Obviously, it's not going to be. I think we're going to beat them better than we beat the English.
But I think they also learned a lesson against the Poms, because the Tide 5 against the Poms were playing like they were playing against the US and not getting involved in the rough stuff. And England came back hard at them and nearly got away with it. It was an intercept try, I believe, by Sinatla that basically proved the difference at the end.
That try wasn't given.
Wasn't it?
It was his hat-trick try. It wasn't given.
Okay.
It was tight. I think we're going to beat the French by a little bit more. I think Brendan Fence is up there with the youngsters as well, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
And that man scares me. So I don't even want to know how these kids are feeling, because he will lay down the law, and that's going to be something we're seeing. I really think I've never looked at our side and just kind of thought to myself, shit, these boys have got exactly what it takes to win this, and this year they do. The amount of names and the amount of times we've been watching the guys play Vodacom Cup Sevens.
Pollard's the only one out of the squad that won it last year.
Yeah.
That remained.
Is there not one other?
As far as I'm aware, well, maybe of the starting 15.
Yeah, at the starting, definitely. But shit, it's going to be good. So tonight at 8:45.
It are indeed.
Going to be huge.
But before that, at 7:15, New Zealand Ireland will be well worth a watch.
Those two definitely the games of the day. And I just want to know,
just before half time in the Wales Argentina game, Wales are running away with it 16 zip.
I wonder how many of our youngsters will get signed and taken by the French, because they're there and they love the South Africans. The lure of the Euro.
Well, I mean, they've been signing us up left, right, and centre as well. I mean, the Bulls are basically le bleu.
Who's just left now?
There was something. I saw a French tweet from a French rugby journalist about Janne Vermaak replacing Burgess at Toulouse.
Well, I was just going to say that replaces Burgess. Obviously, clear I wasn't listening to what you said.
Yeah, but now there was discussions earlier in the week that Jano had a tough call to make with his injury. Does he take the offer from Toulouse, or does he stick around at the Bulls, who offered him half of what they offered him originally? They reduced his contract by half because he's just made it into the box side, and it looks like, from what I picked up on the chatter on Twitter, he's taken the decision to go and earn the Euro and hope that he...
I would also tell the Bulls to get stuffed. I mean, it's not like he's going to have a Springbok contract, so how can you, being a Springbok, drop his contract? Of course.
He wasn't a Bok before that. Well, he was in the squad.
He was never a contracted Bok, though.
No.
So he's not going to be making the money from the Springboks.
Jano Vermaak will be a one Bok wonder.
It doesn't matter. He's
No,
still a Springbok.
No, I'm not denying that. But unfortunately, I think he's at that stage. If he's taken this contract and he's disappearing to France, Piet van Zyl is right up there. Francois Hoogaard, if he sorts his shit out, is right up there. Ruan Pienaar has still got a couple of years in him. That's 3 decent Boks, 2 of them playing at home.
And don't forget about my man at the Sharks.
In time, I'm pretty sure.
If he wasn't injured, he'd be there now. So it's
and he's the son of a Bok.
Correct.
We're talking about Kobus Reinach here, kids. Not Ungara. Okay, when we come back, we are going to tear into the Lions and the Wallabies for 5 or 10 minutes, and then cover some international rugby and talk about what's ahead this weekend. You are listening to Driving More on Loud Radio. We'll be back after a little bit of a request from Sharky.
Don't sell me down the river. Hello. Why you cut my song short? You are so shit at this.
I know. It's the whole turning angle, watching rugby. Fucking.
Dude, you do it
Christ.
every day.
Yeah, it's part of our
Your cuckness. You know what they say? You can make a mistake, but if you keep on making that mistake and you don't learn from it, you're stupid. Do you want me to come run the desk?
Run you out the fucking studio.
It's fine.
No, it's just because I didn't...
Enough, let's talk rugby.
We can. It's 16-0 half-time, Wales-Argentina. Well, 10 seconds to go. On to the Lions.
What a cracker game. Not. I was impressed with the Reds, though. Must be honest, the Reds were phenomenal.
Reds, Lions, and again, kudos to the Lions. They've completely fucked me in Super Brew on this whole thing because
Lions.
Because I've backed opposition to them twice. I'm not doing it again.
That is a bit stupid, though.
Well, but the Reds could have won that game. If you watch the 80 minutes, they had their chances, but the Lions defensively were just...
We're playing against an international side, and they're all on form at the moment.
There were fucking 9 Wallabies in that Queensland
side.
There were 9 Wallabies in that Queensland side. Not current Wallabies, but guys that had played test level.
I'm still going to have a moan about Quade Cooper not being selected, but sorry, as you were.
Too many no-look passes probably cost him, eh? You can't be throwing
He was never going to be selected, judging by...
No, totally. But Luke Morahan with a contender for IOB Tribe 2013. Yes. Hey? That was just a thing of beauty. Took it in his own 22 and then ghosted upfield, through players, round players, little chip, collected under the sticks. Thanks for playing to open the scoring for the Reds. And he duly ended up with a call-up to the Wallabies as cover for the injured Joe Tamani, based on the back of that performance.
One thing's I'm a bit worried about for the Aussies is the amount of injuries they have. I really, they're losing some exceptionally good players.
Well, let's get on directly into that, because first of all, Quade Cooper not there. Curtly Beale, 1 club game for Randwick after rehab, and he's in the Wallaby squad. Clearly, Robbie Deans thinks 1 Kiwi in a side is more than enough.
My major thing was how you. It's not. Yes, I understand what Quade Cooper said, and you don't need to look further than Luke Watson to see all South Africans' views on what you say when you piss all over the flag and the badge. The thing is what he is the best fly half they have in Australia, without a shadow of a doubt. I don't care how he's played for the Wallabies in the past, because he hasn't been a massive game changer, and he hasn't been in his Super Rugby form playing in the gold or orange, whatever they're playing. But,
Yellow.
Oh, that's it. But the thing is he's their best fly-off without a shadow of a doubt. And the only one who could come close to that could possibly be Christian Lealiifano, who's been playing 12 the whole year. So I'm thinking he's going to play centre. And Tamua, who is now injured. So there was really nobody else. I don't think James O'Connor is a 10. I think he's a 15.
But he is going to be the 10.
That's what's pissing me off. Is James O'Connor offers more coming in from fullback, and I believe Kurtley Beale offers more playing at fly-off. I just didn't think Kurtley Beale would be selected because he might still be out drinking. But he's selected, and then he plays at 10, and I'm okay with Quay Cooper not being there. But they need another fly-off.
Well, I mean, let's just run through the side, because you talk about injuries and then you look at the squad that he's selected for the series. So he's picked 31 players. Kurtley Beale, Berrick Barnes, Israel Folau, Digby Ioane, Nick Cummins, Joe Tamani, Adam Ashley Cooper, Rob Horn, Pat McCabe, Christian Lealiifano, James O'Connor, Will Genia, Nick Phipps. That's a pretty tidy selection of options in the backline.
Pat McCabe.
Dude,
out of nowhere.
He's a Wallaby. It's like Bismarck fucking Duplessis. He's played 3 club games. He's fucking on the bench for the Box this weekend.
1 club game.
Whatever.
And he offers more at fly half, Bismarck does, or at inside centre, than McCabe could ever offer.
I rate Pat McCabe. I thoroughly enjoy the way he plays his rugby. He's happy to bleed for the cause.
I must be honest, he's a good 12, and I always talk at the boys and I say, listen, they do their job well, they're not very eccentric, they do their thing and they do it properly, and Pat McCabe's one of those guys. You know what you're going to get out of him. You're not going to get a quick hands out of him, you're not going to get a skip pass, but you're going to get solid defense and
consistency.
Correct.
He's game in, game out, he plays the same level.
I still think he's lucky.
And then you look at the pack of forwards that they've got, or the squad of forwards that they've got. Wycliffe Paulo, Ben McCullman, Ben Moen, Michael Hooper, Liam Gill, Dave Dennis, Peter Kimlin, Hugh McGinniman, James Horwell, the captain of the squad, Rob Simmons, Kane Douglas, Ben Alexander, Sekopi Kepu, James Slipper, Ben Robinson, Scott Seo. Watch that kid.
Yeah.
For a long time coming. He's impressed me in the front row at his age. Stephen Moore and Sai Fainga. So you say that there's injuries, and then you look at that side and you go, who the fuck's missing?
Yeah. There's a lot of guys.
No, I know. It's frightening.
Yeah. I still think before any injuries, I think the Wallabies would have won it 3-0. I think after this, they're still going to win it, possibly 2-1. But we're in for a great one. The Lions are starting to show their hand. They've selected a phenomenal team to play the Waratahs this weekend. Close on the test side.
Yeah.
But, let's see.
Well, let's get into that. The other talking Waratahs, Billy 12 Trees has been called up from the England side as cover because Tuilagi and Sexton are carrying injuries, and 12 Trees can cover 10 and 12.
He will never play 12 for a 10 for the Lions.
No, I understand that, but he can cover it. So if Sexton's not fit for the first test and Farrell's got to start, although saying that, little Stuart Hogg, 21 years of age, playing for Scotland, he has been probably the revelation of the tour so far for me.
Yeah. Well, pretty handy. He was selected as a 10, and he's been playing 15, and he played for half this weekend.
Tuesday against the country boys.
Sorry, you're right. I got that wrong. But yeah, it's
so
interesting. They're still running thin at 10.
I know, but they've got 2 games now in the next week before the first test next weekend. The first is obviously against the Waratahs. For the Waratahs, Dave Dennis and Rob Horn have been released by the Wallabies to go back and play in the game, as have Bernard Foley and Ben Lucas been released from the Aussie World Cup 7 squad to go and play in the game. And then at the same time, Scott Seo and Peter Kimlin have been released by the Wallabies.
Not Ben Lucas, it's his brother.
Ben Lucas and Bernard Foley are in the Aussie 7 squad, and they've been released to play for the Tars.
For the Waratahs. Who's the Lucas that plays for the Reds? I've pooed this.
No, he used to play for the Reds. Oh no, you're right.
No, I'm right. I'll get onto that now. Carry on.
And then, as I said, Kimlin and Seo have been released to play for the Brumbies in midweek because the Brumbies want to put out as strong a side as they can.
Yeah.
And Warren Gatlin basically, when asked about it, said, it's good. He said it's an opportunity for these players, if they're not going to be selected for the first test, to have a run against us and perhaps even go back and have a bit of information on us for the Australian side as well. It's great for the players and great for us as well. Gatland was set to play a shadow test side versus the Tars, but injuries and a few battered bodies has resulted in a slight change of plan. Now you try and figure out who of these guys aren't going to be in the first test. Lee Halfpenny at fullback, Sean Maitland on the wing, Jonathan Davies, Jamie Roberts in the centres, Simon Zebo flown straight in after an unfortunate, and I mean Tommy Bowe, really. I love watching him play rugby,
as well.
And breaks a hand out of the series. Simon Zebo on a plane lands in Australia and straight into a matchday squad on Saturday. Jonathan Sexton at 10, Mike Phillips, Jamie Heaslip, Sam Warburton, Tom Croft, Paul O'Connell, Alan Wynne-Jones, Adam Jones, Tom Youngs, Mako Vunapolo. Maitland and Zebo aren't playing in the first test because George North has made he's run across Australia basically in all the games that he's played. I think he's covered the better part of 500 meters in 3 or 4 games. And Alex Cuthbert is probably in the form of his life and probably one of the form wingers in world rugby right now. So they'll definitely be on the wings, but they have played a few.
Who are we talking about? Ben Lucas.
Yes.
Ben Lucas plays for the Reds. I was quite sure he did. His brother... There's another Lucas. I think it might be the other one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just copied and pasted this news, so...
Look at you. Can't operate the desk. You struggle to get your shit together.
Settle down. I'll turn your mic off and talk shit on my own. And then their bench is Richard Hibbard, Alex Corbacero, Dane Cole, Jeff Parling, Dan Lydiot, Ben Youngs, Owen Farrell, Rob Kearney. The Waratahs aren't announcing their squad until tomorrow, so we got nothing to compare it to. But that must be close to 75% of the test squad. It's having a run.
It's pretty solid. Listen, they're getting close to test time now, and they need to start sort of working on sort of tighter combinations and seeing how guys are working together, not just on the sort of normal set combinations that we're used to seeing, but as a team. It's still going to be an absolute cracker. I still think that we're in for one of the best Lions tours out. So
we just got a little bit of rugby news from a cricket guy.
Blank
just said Gavin Henson's just signed for Bath. News just in from the UK. Thanks, Blank.
Yeah, well done, bud. He's Henson. How many caps he got? 32, 33ish, somewhere around there. Pretty decent signing for them.
So you want a fucking opera singer? You're gonna wreck your career.
You want? Anywho,
I think we should play a little bit of music and come back in the last 20 minutes. Just go international rugby, what came this weekend and what's coming this weekend.
Cool, done. Quick song.
You are listening to Blokes on the Couch on Loud Radio. We'll be back after a little bit of Snow Patrol to add to the Mumford & Sons from Sharky. Completely missed your button. It wasn't that I switched it. I didn't
calm down. There's children listening.
I didn't switch the other mic on.
I cannot believe that 3 times in a row you've actually cocked it up.
Oh, it's everything. Anything's possible. It's it is what it is.
Gotcha.
Now you see, you made me leave the cricket on, although Ravi Bopara is doing some work there. Let's get on to international, because there has been quite a bit of test rugby going on in the last week.
Can I just start off by saying, how much of a hiding did Jeb Sinclair get?
Well, I was going to get there.
Against Tonga.
Dude, but it was, I mean, I saw a lovely tweet. There were people tweeting him, Jeb Sinclair, he's there when he's there for the clean stuff and always there for the rough.
Always. Do you think that dude that hit him is mates with Jean Daisel? That's all I want to know.
I don't know, but I mean,
maybe he was involved in the Sharks Academy for a while. I don't know.
If you haven't seen it, go find it on video for the punch up in the Canada-Tonga game, because Canada ended up winning 36-27, but the Tongans had a player red carded for the punch on Jeb, and the only reason he got a red card, because it had been a melee, it was a full punch up. Jeb took like 3 or 4 uppercuts and all kinds of shit was going on. The fight had broken up and Jeb must have said something to the front ranker, because he's clocked him full tilt with a straight right and put him on his arse. But to his credit, he was up like 3 seconds later, wanting to have words about what had just happened. The ref saw it, said it was after the fight had broken up, red card. In the aftermath, the Tongan management and coach and whatever have said that the referees are racist.
I had proper words, and I can't even think of the flipping the coach's name, the Tongan coach. I was pissed off. He's turned around and he's basically said that that the IRB are racist against any coloured players, and they're playing the game legitimately, and they're just picking on them. So I had a little quick view on YouTube, the highlights of the game. Jesus, it takes me back to, I can't remember who we spoke with. I think maybe I spoke with Mindy, just in terms of the Aussies and the Kiwis, and excuse me, that they've got a lot of rugby league. Now, league, those tackles are legal, the shoulder tackles and stuff. But for us in South Africa, we're not used to seeing that. So
aside from James, Butch James,
but we don't see that. So for us, it looks worse than I think it does look for them. But either way, you must tackle with your arms, and it's against the law. And the one oak, he was huge, and he was playing at 12. He was tall and big, and he just smashed some guy with his shoulder in his face. So anyway, such is life. But completely offside comments by the Tongan coach. There should be, I'm sure there will be a little bit of more from that. The coach
we asked Jeb if he was up for a conversation, because it would have been morning time in Canada, but he didn't respond until literally the second and said, sorry boys, I was at training. So we couldn't get him on to ask him about... I sing
the jaw. The coach is Matu'u. The Tongan coach. He's an ex-player. He played for the Blues, I think. He played for Wellington. So, but so yes, I don't know. I don't think comments like that are warranted, and unless you've got legitimate grounds. But he didn't have anything.
No. Well, what that result meant is that Canada are actually top of the Pacific. What is it? The IRB Pacific Nations Cup standings. They have beaten Fiji, the USA, and obviously Tonga now. They played Japan.
They beat them, but they won on the scoreboard.
They played. Well, that was Jeb. Jeb arrives at his hotel in Toronto, and the ice machine's out of order. He says they obviously didn't get the memo that we played Tonga yesterday. But what it means is that Canada can win the IRB Pacific Nations Cup if they beat Japan on Wednesday or Tuesday when they play them. However, in between that, they've got to take on the fucking Irish first.
I know.
And that's what I was hoping to get Jeb on air to have this conversation, because they've got a competition going on between Canada, USA, Fiji, Tonga.
It's serious. That's world rankings and World Cup qualifications.
And then in between, Japan have got to play 2 tests against Wales. Canada are playing against Ireland, and it's like and in fact, Fiji played a New Zealand Legends side 2 days ago and got thumped as well. Either way, Canada could win the IRB Nations Cup. They're playing some stellar rugby.
They've got some classy players.
Well, they've got a Currie Cup winner in their midst.
Seriously? Did you? Seriously?
Other results from the weekend, though. Wales, a weakened Wales, let's be honest. They're missing like 15 players to the Lions series. They got up 22-18 over Japan in Japan in front of 20,000 people. Good crowd. And then England trounced Argentina, and you think, well, that's a second-string England side. What the hell's going on? But when you look at the Argentinian side, it was a second-string Argentinian side.
I was actually baffled by the side they put out, because the Argies need to prep up for the Rugby Championship, which they obviously want to look at doing better. A lot of their guys are still, most of their players are in France, in Europe, but a lot of them in France, and the leagues are all done already. So I was a bit befuddled by that, but looking forward to seeing what else comes down.
Let's see what they parade out this weekend in the second test.
Maybe it's a great move.
Indeed. And then New Zealand 23, France 13. No Daniel Carter, no Richie McCaw. New Zealand looked very sketchy.
The French got off to a great start, eh?
Yeah, Fafana scored a great try. Who put him through into the space? Who put Fafana into that space? Somebody with a great run. Anyway.
Shit, I actually don't know, but Wesley Fafana always.
No.
He would be first in my.
But then the
my
All
French
Blacks, bog standard for New Zealand All Blacks rugby, put the foot down 5 minutes before halftime and put the foot down 5 minutes after halftime, took the game away from the French. Thanks for playing 3 tries in that period, or 2 tries in that period, and ended up running out 23-13 winners. But the French would have taken some heart from it, and I know
they were in with a shot for a lot of the game. So there was something
not
that
as much
happened.
heart as Heineken Meyer took from it.
Yeah, I don't know. I must be honest. I'll get into my feelings on the Boks this weekend. But there was a moment in the match where the French scored a try, was disallowed, and I can't remember why. But there was something that happened.
I also picked that up,
and that would have changed things. And looking forward to seeing how this weekend comes along.
It was a sketchy call too.
The only problem is the Kiwis will build on it, and they're staying at home and everything. The French can get crushed. They're either going to pick it up or they're going to get dropped down. So we'll see what happens this weekend. I think this weekend's the sort of tipper as to what's going to happen.
Yeah, well, I mean, the French side hasn't been announced yet, but the French did play the Blues in midweek and trounced them, although the Blues came back in the second half, and there were 1 or 2 players that impressed there, including a bloke at fullback, which I think you said was Maxime Medard.
Yeah, he started at fullback. He's been playing. I actually looked out for him in the World Cup. I rate him. He's clubbed at Toulouse, but he's been playing a lot on the wing for the French, and fullback's his preferred position. Short, smallish guy, little pocket rocket, got great feet. But yeah, he had a blinder. So yeah.
Sorry, completely off the topic, but Ricky Gervais just tweeted, in a recent survey, 70% of Americans questioned thought Joan of Arc was Noah's wife.
Jeez.
Settle. But the All Blacks have made no changes to their starting 15 for this weekend, so obviously trying to just get the continuity and the consistency going. They have, however, brought Tony Woodcock and Perry Wepu, as well as Andrew Hoare, onto the bench. Kevin Mialamu dropping out of the equation. And so too would have Tawera Kerbalo, and I'd imagine Ben Afiaki would be the other one that's gone. Dane Coles gets his second successive test start. The side, I mean, if you didn't know, and there would have been, I mean, Ben Smith. There was tweets and conversations that something along the lines of coming out of the All Black camp is that Ben Smith doesn't actually realise how good of a rugby player he is.
He's classy.
No, he's got that Christian Cullen about him from 10 years ago. Lovely to watch. Anyway, there would have been a consideration to maybe move him to 15, but they've decided to keep him out on the wing. So it's Dag, Ben Smith, Conrad Smith, Marnonu, Julian Severe, Aaron Cruden, Aaron Smith. 3 Smiths in the back line. Who would have thunk? Kieran Reid, Sam Kane, Liam Messam, Brody Retallick, Luke Romano, Owen Franks, Dane Coles, White Crockett. Thanks for coming. Bowden Barrett, Rene Ranger looking to back out of his contract with Montpellier. Robert Eberson's already done the same thing. Montpellier could end up with like a cash influx without actually bringing any players in.
That's crazy. I think Montpellier is still pursuing legal action against Robert Eberson because of what happened.
But Rene Ranger's now considering pulling out of the deal as well, which could cost him $500,000 because he's back into the All Black equation, and if he goes overseas, they don't pick overseas players.
Yeah.
Unlike
South Africa, who sends them there and still selects them. Just saying.
Short flight home. On to the Castle Championship thing. What's it called? Quadrangular
inbound tour.
There we go. Samoa picked up their first ever win against Scotland. Alasani Tuilagi, the brother of England's Manu Tuilagi, with a double. First ever win for Samoa against the Scots. Yes.
Those oaks were shitting themselves when he was running at them.
I know, but the Scots, I mean, people are saying Scotland have been like weak and blah blah blah. They've only had like 4 or 5 players in the Lions, and they obviously lost Kelly. Go find a video of Kelly Brown. I swear he's made out of plasticine. He's a cartoon character. He fell straight out of fucking Toy Story. The 27-17 Samoa won that game. The Bokke 44-10 over Italy. And let's just start this conversation off with Brian Habana.
Habana was unbelievable, and even when he's off form, he was still putting that effort in. It just wasn't falling his way, and he's been great. I think he's the epitome of a professional athlete. Great guy, but we spilled two tries over the
JJ Engelbrecht butchered a hat trick in a Bok jersey.
Correct, but we missed out. There were about 30 minutes in that game where South Africa were not playing rugby, and we should have killed the Italians. We should have absolutely destroyed them, and we didn't. It wasn't cohesive enough, and maybe with the new guys and everything, but I don't think we were that great.
First game of the season, All Blacks didn't look that great either. Let's judge it on Sunday after this weekend on both those sides, because the 44-10 still a pretty decent result. 5 tries. Habana with like the jet shoes of old. He set up one with a break and scored another with a break where he literally, it was like he was running through traffic cones.
Never done it.
Didn't they have them at practice at Hammy's?
Wasn't it Hammy's? Might have been on a main road somewhere.
The JJ Engelbrecht impressed at 13. A lot of go forward. I understand people will talk about the opposition,
He's
blah, blah,
so
blah.
quick.
Yeah, no, and strong.
He's got gas.
Yeah. Billy LaRue, everyone held their breath in anticipation of what he could do and expected him to do, but it's Test rugby and he still didn't do much wrong. Yeah, he kicked one directly into touch. He's been rewarded. Mayer's decided, actually, let's just go with the continuity, much like Steve Hansen with the All Blacks. He said he was going to use the series to try other combinations, but they played well enough, and, you know, Arno Buerta,
beast.
at 7, at the age of 20, whatever the fuck he is, 20 nothing, superb. No, all in all, I understand where you're coming from. There were 20 to 30 minutes of the game where the Boks weren't doing a hell of a lot.
And the Italians were still in with a shot.
Wasn't helped by Bjorn Besson picking up a yellow card early in the first half.
Skeptical.
Well, it didn't help.
No, I'm saying skeptical in terms of the card.
I actually missed it. I was picking my kids up from birthday party. But for the Italians, Sergio Parise, honestly, if he played for another country, he'd be up there in terms of ratings for players, because he really did. I mean, did you see this disappointment when he popped that ball off the ground and the fucker knocked it on with the try line beckoning?
Yeah.
I've never seen a rugby player react like that to a knock on in my entire life.
Oh.
Wears his heart on the sleeve. Let's get on to this weekend for the final 5 minutes of the show, because Samoa take on Italy at 2:15 on Saturday. The Samoans have made one change. I think it was injury enforced. The Italians will be running scared.
As far as I understand, the Samoans have never beaten Italy. So it's a big day for them. They're looking pretty good, and it's a chance for them to Samoa win that game. Should play South Africa in the final.
Indeed. The Bokke take on the Scots, and let's be honest, it's a weakened Scots side. Their best players are with the Lions or injured. Their skipper has gone home with an injury, Kelly Brown.
It's gone back to okay, enough.
Mr. Potato Head.
We should give the Scots, especially after our second game. Now the guys have kind of chilled and spent some time. They got rid of the nerves. We should give Scotland way more than we gave Italy.
But here's a frightening statistic in terms of how good that side is on paper, because you look at the side and you go Willie Leroux, Brian Habana, JJ Engelbrecht, Jean de Villiers, Bjorn Besson, Mornay Steyn, Ruan Pienaar, Pierre Spies, Arno Buerta, Marcel Coetzee, Jean-Andre Kruger, Eben Etzebeth, Yanni Duplessis, Adrian Strauss, Tender, the Beast, and Tamorera. 10 of that 23 have got 9 or less caps for the Springboks, and 2 of them are on debut. Well, Bismarck, Trevor, Cooney, Flip, Sear, Pitt, Pat Lambie, and Jan Serfontein. Now, you go into the next one. JJ Engelbrecht, 21-22. Arno Buerta, 21-22. Marcel Coetzee, 21-22. Eben Etzebeth, 21-22. Trevor Nyakani can't be much more than 23. Cooney Oosthuizen's about 23, Sia Khaleesi 21, Pitt van Zyl 22, Pat Lambie 23, Jan Serfontein 20.
Crazy, bro. Crazy. We've got some classy guys coming through, and I just hope we get to manage them well enough and hold on to them.
And then a little. I mean, there'll be a few people in Bloemfontein at Grey College sitting up and going, "Hello, there are 8 Grey Bloem old boys in the match day 23 for the game on Saturday."
Crazy, eh?
In Nelspruit.
Sure.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. From the perspective of last season, we all looked at Heineke Meyer and we went, awesome, he's here, the Bulls, we've seen what he can do. And actually all he did was kind of consolidate, figure things out. He had very little time with his support staff in terms of his management structure. So he went with what he knew. And when you look at it, the results weren't too shabby, but not blowing things out of the water. A draw against England, a draw against Argentina that hurt. A loss against New Zealand in New Zealand that they may well have won. And then you look at what he's doing now and bringing in the X Factor with Billy LaRue and the sides he's picking and the youngsters that are coming through. And I'm excited for 2015.
I am too. We just really wanted to see this happen before now. At least, listen, the one thing, at least it's happened. I was hoping it happened in the beginning, but he's kind of built something up and he's got guys that he can fall back on if he really needs. But now he's starting to blood youngsters. In fairness, and with all due respect to them, the opposite, we're not playing France. We're not playing any top sides at the moment. It's the French and the Argentinians are probably the only 2 sides that are not taxed by the Lions.
Beat France.
Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is that it's...
No. I don't disagree, but that's why 44-10, if that had been 32-15, we'd all be upset. 44-10, first game of the season, you kind of look at it, you go 5 tries to 1. The try that they scored was with 14 men on the park for the box, and you're like, okay, it was okay. Mornay Steyn hardly missed a kick. Did he miss a kick? Don't think he did. It's those little things.
They make a massive difference, and it's all going to come through this weekend against Scotland.
And then, in closing, Brian Abana, Super Rugby for the Stormers, Brian Abana, Bok Rugby for the Springboks. What's the difference?
I don't know.
Alistair fucking Coetzee.
I don't want to get started on this right now. You're right, we don't have any time.
No. Folks, we're going to play out with a little bit of Roy Orbison, Pretty Woman, just because I can. We'll be back next week. Unfortunately, no commentary with Balls this weekend. It's Father's Day on Sunday, and Sean and I have decided to pull our heads in until then.
Can't be Father's Day with a hangover.
No. Enjoy the weekend's rugby, and in closing, come on, Bokke!
Oh, looking forward to it. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sharky. 16-13, Argentina are down by 3 with 20 minutes to go in the Junior World Cup game. Enjoy the rest of that Junior World Cup stuff tonight. It should be entertaining if you can actually get the TV away from your missus.